Welcome to AllAhWeTV. We are live, and today is a great opportunity. After a little back and forth scheduling and getting it together, we're finally here sitting down. We're pleased to welcome to AllAhWeTV Content House CEO Carl Knight of the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority, a position that is headache. It's headache. It's non-stop headache. So welcome. Thanks for being here, and thanks for making the time to be here.
Thank you very much. It's been a long time coming.
Yes. So we're gonna start this different. We always want to come out of the gate with a punch-in question. Instead of doing that, I want you to start. You're the CEO. Tell us positive news the public needs to hear from WAPA. Groundbreaking news, positive news. You started, you set the tone, and we go from there.
Yeah, well, we've been making really good strides. We have some wonderful things that's happening. We've had some financial trouble over the past few years, and but we've made some really good strides with our costs. We've gotten the federal FEMA, the federal government, to pay for some of the things we've been paying out of pocket for. So our Greco lease on St. Croix, and just most recently we've concluding. I won't get ahead of my board, but we've wrapped up negotiations on a fuel contract that I think is going to really generate some considerable savings. So both on the diesel side and now on the LPG side, I think we've made good progress in the last few years.
Okay. So if you had to rate the agency, where's the agency now? A, B, C. Of course, A, like we in school, is the best.
Yeah.
B, and we're not just rating, we're rating it overall.
Yes.
Overall. And when you rate it where it is now, and then rate it also when you walk in, where you would have rated.
When I walked in, it was definitely a D.
Okay.
I think we're at a C plus. Believe it or not. I've been on the job just a little shy of 12 months.
Okay.
And so, a little shy of a year in. I came in, it was probably at a D, we're probably at a C plus, and we're getting better. I'm hoping to get to a B over the next 12 months.
Why would you say it's a C plus?
So on the good side of it, we have renewable energy projects we've been able to put online. We've been able to put in the last 12 months 22 megawatts of solar energy that we're able to purchase at a fairly good rate of 11 cents a kilowatt hour. That has allowed us to bring down our costs. We have renegotiated our diesel contract and gotten that reduced by quite a margin.
Okay.
We have been able to keep current with some of the chronic bills that were plaguing us. We've improved our cash flow. We've cut a deficit. When I came in, we probably had a deficit of somewhere between $30 and $36 million a year. About $3 to $3.5 million a month was where we were short. That deficit we've now cut to, it's probably somewhere around 1.5 million a month, which is progress, right? It's not perfect,
so where you
but it's
were
progress.
When you got in?
About $30 to $36 million about a year, which is about $3 to $3.5 million a month. So that means every month what I bring in revenues, I was getting bills in excess of that revenues by about $3 to $3.5 million.
And where you at now?
We're about probably 1 point something million, maybe about 1.5 million a month that we're
Again, cut it in half.
Yeah, we've cut it in half.
You cut it in half.
We
so you cut the deficit.
We still have a deficit, so I can't give myself an A, but it's not as big a deficit as we had, and we certainly have some things in motion that are going to get us there.
Okay.
Eliminate that deficit, get us back in the black.
What would you say is the biggest challenges WAPA have right now?
Cash flow. Our liquidity, right, is the biggest challenge that we have. We've been biting the bullet for quite some years. Really and truly, our rates should have gone up, but we know that would have been unconscionable. There was a point in time when WAPA, you go back about 10 years or so, WAPA had raised the rates up to like 53 cents a kilowatt hour, and we nearly crashed the economy. You had businesses closing, you had folks on fixed income just couldn't pay their bills. You walk in Kmart, every other row of lights was out because
watch the budget.
Even a big box store like Kmart had to watch its budget because the cost of electricity was really unconscionable. The government was falling behind, couldn't afford to pay its own bills, and we know what that felt like. So we haven't been eager to raise rates up to that level. So we've been biting the bullet. When Russia invaded the Ukraine, there's been different shocks on the price of oil. And rather than passing that on, as WAPA has done in the past, WAPA has made the right decision to not pass that on. That predated me, and I've continued not trying to seek for increases. But then what that means is that you stop maintaining your equipment as you should. You stop paying vendors like you should. You start falling behind in payments, and that does catch up to you, after a while. That's where we're at right now.
So you said having raised the rates.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, most recent in the news, of course, the LIAC.
Right.
This enemy, this bad word that most people don't understand.
The other four-letter word, yes. The other four-letter word.
So you say, what is LIAC? You describe it right now before we even
continue. LIAC is the Levelized Energy Adjustment Clause, and you could also call it the fuel surcharge. It's a distinction between my operating costs, the cost of personnel and equipment, materials, and just a pure fuel charge. So my budget is about 43% fuel. So of every dollar I get in the cash pan, about 43 cents goes straight to pay the fuel providers. And so because that is a variable amount, it can go up based on the commodity price. If the market goes up today, the fuel price goes up. If it goes down, it goes down. There's an attempt to levelize that so that I'm not changing the rates every day or every week or every month. Right now we do it quarterly. Every quarter we look at, has it gone up, gone down, and we make adjustments accordingly. Recently, the rates have been higher than what we've been collecting, so there's been no adjustment. It's been frozen at about 22 cents a kilowatt hour, which the bill is 43 cents, and 22 cents out of the bill is that fuel cost that we have to ultimately pass on.
So you had the PSC, WAPA was in a position where the PSC said, listen, we did a study and thing gone down, you all need to lower this LIAC.
Right.
And you all say, hey, like what you just said, we need to keep it for a little while so we could build up our cash flow. We could build up our carcasses.
Yeah.
That was correct? And you failed. Not that you failed, sorry. you weren't successful in, not you yourself, but the PSC rule on behalf of the people. And that has taken effect. Has it?
No, it hasn't. We petitioned them to reconsider. That's there right now. We submitted testimony as to why we think they should reconsider the decision. I want to go back to the beginning though. They didn't do a study. We submitted our calculations and showed them.
Pause. You said they didn't do the study.
Right.
When we read, I went to the PSC website and they said they had a group that did a study and they watch it. So you said they didn't do a study.
No, I'm saying we submitted our filing that showed them that our cost for fuel has gone down approximately 5 cents from where it was previously.
Okay.
So we volunteered that information to them. We did our analysis and said, look, fuel is coming down. It's come down about 5 cents. And then we asked them to keep the rates steady for the reasons that you pointed out. We said, look, we have vendors we need to pay.
Yeah.
We're in arrears with a lot of folks. Local companies, stateside companies. So even though cost is coming down, I can't pass on all of that in a price reduction because I got bills to pay. But so that was us being transparent and saying, hey, we're moving in the right direction. Guess what? Things are working the way they're supposed to work. These projects, the water sellers, the solar projects, these projects are having the impact they're supposed to have. Cost is coming down. PSC got ahead of me and said, hey, well, let's pass that on. Let's cut the rates. If I was a private business, there would have been some discussion about rates of return on investment, profit margins. Nobody says, hey, my cost came down 5 cents. Let me reduce my price 5 cents. There's a certain level of reinvestment that has to be done into the business. The decision that the PSC made was they ignored all of that. They ignored the fact that the day that they did that, I actually had a tanker sitting waiting for me to pay them so they could offload the fuel because I prepay for fuel. And I was saying, we can look at the rate for the LIAC in isolation, but you also have to put it in the context of the bigger picture of the finances of the company. The fact is we have $104 million in accounts payable that is owed. We owe at least $7.4 million, and that is just local businesses that have floated and carried us, the trucking companies, the tire shops, All the local vendors that we do business with, we owe about 7.4 million. Even the airlines that we go back and forth with on, um, we owe another 2 million or so, just customer refund deposits that we have to keep there so we can refund deposits. We owe GRS. We owed IRB for taxes withheld. So before I start to tell my vendors I saving money, and I'm reducing my prices, my vendors want to hear like, hey, well, pay me. Before you start cutting your price, make sure you could pay me what you owe me because you've owed me long enough. And that's the position we're in.
So how long? Because the consumer at home, they just they trying to WAPA is a big part of, as you said, the businesses, the barter, the residential. WAPA impacts every part of
Even the
life.
government has to pay a bill, right?
Yeah. So how long? You say you petition to the PSC. How long does WAPA need? You need till the end of the year to catch yourself? Or when can people see or expect to see a drop in the bill? And then we're going to talk about the bill.
So our petition, we're asking for a 12-month stay.
Oh, geez. A whole lot of year.
But so if you look at it from my perspective, our fiscal year started July 1st. That begins our fiscal year. We're still running a deficit. I just told you I still have a slight deficit. Not as big as it was a year ago, but it's still a slight deficit. I believe I can close that deficit by the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
But here's the thing. The rate reduction that the PSC proposed comes up to about $2.5 million a month. That equates to $30 million for the year. I just told you I just came out of a deficit of 30 to 36 million. If I go back and add another $30 million reduction in revenues, I'm back where I started. It means we're still deferring maintenance. We're still not paying vendors. We're still back in the hole that we're just trying to dig ourselves out of. I think that within a 12-month period, we can eliminate that deficit, get back to the point where we're cash flowing positive again as a utility, and then we can start talking about how we share some of that cash flow with the customers in the form of a rate reduction. Some of it still needs to kind of go back into the business. So even if I save 5 cents, 6 cents, 10 cents, there has to be some level of reinvestment, right? So I can't, I need to take care of my capital expenses. We've been fortunate that FEMA dollars, HUD dollars, have carried a lot of our capital expenses. So we haven't had to take a lot of money out of the operating budget to deal with some of our operating expenses. However, that won't last forever. And so we do need to start to plan how we reinvest back in the business and how we, of course, pass on some necessary relief. I get it. Customers have been waiting quite patiently for some sort of rate relief. They've heard all sorts of estimates and timelines. I know that they were already out of patience long before I even got to WAPA. But realistically, if we want to do this in a sustainable fashion, I think 12 months is what we need. I don't want to cut the rates today and then I have rolling outages tomorrow because I can't meet my obligations. It got to be sustainable. When we cut it, I want to start a trend that it goes down and we don't have to come back and petition a few months later and say, wait, we need some more money.
And we got to give you credit. You talked about the rolling outages. WAPA has been doing better. And the outages still have some.
Still a C+, but we get in there.
Still have some, but you got to say we've been doing better. But before you go on that topic, you say you need 12 months. Me as the consumer, I'm saying, well, I financing your problem, right? Your rate gone down for producing the power. I want to pay what is my realistic bill, right? I have to help the authority. I'm speaking for the person who's watching at home.
Yeah.
I want to pay as least as possible. Now I understand all of that WAPA, but geez and brother, you've been killing me for how much years? We now call, now you can go through how much CEOs. WAPA, can't you figure out another option than me now, having to pay? I paying the boarding for the authority?
So our rate should, when I came into the company, when I sat down with Ernst & Young, they showed me some facts and figures that said your rate is really 8 cents lower than it should be. Matter of fact, their recommendation was that one of the recommendations of their study was you need to ask for a rate increase. I made it clear to them that not only is that not politically palatable and feasible, and at the same time it's self-defeating. If I move my rates beyond where they are now, I would lose customers. I would have a lot of folks that couldn't pay, not because they don't want to, they just couldn't afford to. The government would probably start to rack up another arrearage to me like they used to back in the days when the rates were higher. It would actually have a negative impact on my revenues and sales. It wouldn't have a positive impact. And so I told them, we got to continue to toe the line. The public hasn't paid the full cost, and I don't expect that they ever will, because we're going to bite the bullet on some of that. But I think what's more important for me to say is, my focus has been on reliability. So I thank you for pointing out that we're doing a better job with reliability. There's still some more work to be done there. But my first order of business was keep the lights on.
Yes.
Keep it reliable. Make sure people are getting the service that they're paying for. If you're going to pay me a premium, at least I should provide you a premium service, right? So I've been trying to get to that level. And I don't want to pass on something that's not sustainable. I don't want rates to be going up and down. I really think we can get on a trend with all the capital projects that are now coming online. I think we could build some momentum for some rate reduction that's consistent and start moving in the opposite direction. We spent some years climbing. I want to spend a few years declining. And that means we sustainably cut costs, we improve productivity, we find ways where we can eke out more operational efficiencies while maintaining service quality, maintaining reliability, keeping the power on, but having sustainable rate reduction, as opposed to I cut it today, and then a few months from now, I'm asking for a rate increase, and we're going up, down, up, down. I really think I have a target in mind. I don't want to say it out loud, but I think there's a point that we need to be on a path to get the rates to a level that ultimately, as Virgin Islands, we could probably breathe a sigh of relief and say, okay, this is something, ain't as low as the States, but it's something that we could live with.
Okay.
I'm trying to get us there.
We gotta give credit the FEMA monies to helping us keep the rate not from increasing. We gotta give credit to Governor Albert Bryan too. Cause he put his head on our block. And he has just saying that WAPA cannot increase its rates. So we gotta give credit to the governor for that and not raising the rates. And during your era as well, because you were the former chief of staff.
I was there with him, and I give him grief all the time. I said, you put up all this subsidy before I got to WAPA. Since I got to WAPA, all of a sudden, I can't get a help out. I said, all kind of money was flinging when I was, on this side. No, on the other side, like all of a sudden, I can't get a help out. But we weaned ourselves off of government subsidy in December with the end of the state of emergency. But since the era and the COVID period, the governor has found ways to kind of keep WAPA afloat so that they don't have to pass on cost increases. Remember, like during COVID, revenues fell through the floor. It was necessary for the government to kind of step in, and it happens in the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. Governments will subsidize the cost of energy, subsidize the utilities, so they don't have to pass that on to the customers. We finally had
nothing new.
It's nothing new in the industry, at least not in the Caribbean, and we finally had to bite the bullet, and the government did come through and prop up WAPA for the last 2-3 years. They've been propping up WAPA.
Okay, you just jump on it, and then we're going into some more questions. Sure. What made you say the governor, you were helping out before you got there, now you got there, how long? What made you want to go to WAPA? Because when you got there and they announced that you were going there, the rumors start. That kind of thing. We don't talk rumors. Hey. But everyone curious, what made Carl Knight go there? Then some said, his background was WAPA.
Right.
So what made you want to go WAPA, and what's your vision for the authority, the agency actually?
So rumors started because a lot of people that know me in recent years would probably think that I'm just a political, right? So they see me as the governor's chief of staff. If you go back far enough, you know that I was the director of the energy office. I was the energy manager and the director of modernization and capital development at Housing Authority. You go back far enough, I was a policy advisor for energy, infrastructure, and environment for John DeYoung. And if you go back far enough, then you realize that I actually started my career in WAPA. I did 8 years at the start of my career, 5 as a engineer in the power plant, and the other 3 as a strategic planner. I'm doing strategic planning for the whole company. So in between there somewhere, I did 3 years on the governing board. So the nuances of WAPA, the operations of WAPA, and ultimately the strategic vision of WAPA are things that I've been part and parcel with for many years. I developed a performance management plan for WAPA when I was with WAPA, going back to the Joseph Thomas Bruno Vega days. Okay. So WAPA wasn't new to me. We were in a position of when the former executive director abruptly resigned his position, it did create a vacuum, and we saw the board looking at how to fill the vacuum, and we saw the
The
process that was
former
going to play
executive
out.
director?
Yeah, and Andy
We
Smith.
basically asked him to leave.
I'm being diplomatic, but he did abruptly resign. Whether he was invited to do so or he did so on his own volition, he did. He didn't finish out his contract term,
Yeah.
right? So that created a leadership vacuum that the board was trying to fill. Of course, from my perch in Government House, we were looking at them, trying to figure out how they're going to fill that vacuum. And my name had been floated because folks kind of know that I have an affinity to the company. People that really know where I got started know that I'm an old WAPA man, and that's where I got my start. I didn't like the idea because, like you started off saying, WAPA is a headache. It was a mess. Yeah. And my original position was, let somebody clean this mess, because when I, the local boy, take over, they're going to nail me and say I create the mess. Like, them who create the mess, let it clean it up before they go. Mm-hmm. The reality is that I live here. And I deal with the consequences like every other Virgin Islander. It's very frustrating to see something not working the way it should work, and knowing that you could get it to work a little bit better than it worked. Okay. And the final part of it was, I felt, this is really some divine calling. I began my career with WAPA. WAPA actually paid for my college education. The reason why I'm a college educated individual today is because WAPA paid for my college education. Massive. My first summer job was with WAPA. And it was a realization that this is where I started. This is where my foundation was grounded. This is where I learned. This is where I cut my teeth in the corporate workplace. And maybe the time had come for me to come full circle and pay back what had been paid forward to me. They made an investment in me many years ago, and it felt like the time was right. I gathered certain experiences, certain knowledge, certain connections, and I've been able to really see things from the outside. And maybe the time had come for me to go back and pay back what they had invested in me many years ago, not knowing that what the outcome would have been. But yeah, so I felt that maybe there's a reason why this opportunity is presenting itself, and there's a reason why my name was being circulated.
Now, have you got to share that history ever before? Because I want to say this is the first time I heard in depth you share your history and this pay it forward. Yeah. The full circle part of the story.
Yeah, I mean, usually we jump into the meat of what's going on, what's happening, what's the plan. But you asked me a question as to what motivated me to even want to do it.
PR all the time, and PR, not only your PR, PR on a whole. Yeah. I'm part of the media circle to the marketing, so I cost myself. And we have to do a better job sharing the story. Sometimes we get the person as yourself, you get in too much unnecessary blows. But we ain't trying to soften you.
No,
not at all.
It ain't about the blows, but it's about why would I put myself in a position to take blows? Mm-hmm. Because I really, not only do I think I can make a difference, I think I'm making a difference. But I also realize that, folks before made investments in Virgin Islanders to one day be able to take over and do things. They made a specific investment in my education, sent me off to learn engineering, gave me a full ride. And in reality, I don't know if I get to college without that scholarship. I don't know if I get a degree. I don't know what becomes of me. That was a very instrumental part of my life. Yeah. And I do owe the company a debt of gratitude. They asked me, like, why am I so involved with the scholarship program? Like, yeah, because I know how important I was in my life, and how ultimately it set me on a track. It gave me the reason why I'm comfortable as a Virgin Islander is I got the skills I could always fall back on to pay the bills. Mm. I'm not out there just blowing in the wind. I had a solid grounding from WAPA that ultimately has carried me throughout my career.
Awesome. We're going to give some credit right now to our sponsors who have us on the air. We are live. AllAhWeTV. We're brought to you by the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority. Get a loan. Get the money you need to fund your business, fund your dreams with the Virgin Islands EDA. The Virgin Islands Police Department. Tire Kingdom Auto Depot. You buy 3 tires, you get the 4 tire free. Miss Naturalista. Let's say they have products for men, women, your entire family. Miss Naturalista. Located St. Thomas, St. Croix. The Bureau of School Construction and Maintenance. Are you come down? Look, come August 13th, you're gonna see a lot of brand new school, but you're gonna see a lot of new enhancements done by the Bureau. And Java Grand, start your day in Yachthaven Grand with Java Grand, coffee, latte, all them night stuff, a mocha, all them beautiful things, Java Grand. So now back. And what we're gonna do is start moving a little quicker.
No problem.
You said you get your start at WAPA.
Yes.
You just said you're instrumental and you're very passionate about the scholarship program.
Oh, yeah.
You know, today, we don't see much WAPA truck on the road. I see a lot of Hagland. You know how we're going there,
Yeah.
right? So my question is, where is WAPA going? Where's the future? Because we've seen much of course, Hagland ain't going on the road for free. But it seems like much of the work is being outsourced. Now, we know they have a contract to replace the poles.
Right.
But if you pay attention on the road, many times there's a problem. Hagland come out on the road as well, maybe assisting WAPA.
Yeah.
This was when, of course, we had the island blackouts.
Yeah.
We had the fiber had mash up, right? Underground wire, Hagland come out.
Yeah.
But the question is, like you said with the scholarship programs, are we giving away, even we as a business, when we outsource, I gotta say, we giving away all the money, we have to keep some in house so we could grow. What's happening at WAPA? Because we see Hagland get about 200 truck out there, and WAPA get about 3.
Yeah, after the storms, they brought about 200 trucks, and those trucks never left. But and your observation is absolutely correct. I'm grateful to have a great partner like Hagland because it helps supplement our manpower, especially in times like storm season. I feel really good knowing I have a Hagland sitting around there that when I need a little extra manpower, I can call on them. So by all means, I'm pleased to have that partnership with them. But just today, I was talking to my board chair. I said, look, in this budget that I'm taking before you for approval, I have some capacity building because I have to build back the capacity of the company. There's certain
capacity
things,
meaning
manpower, trained individuals to fulfill some of the functions that we have been outsourcing.
Okay.
I told them when I left WAPA 21 years ago, we weren't outsourcing a lot of the things we're outsourcing now. And I know we have Virgin Islands. Yes, we've had some migration out, so I know the workforce is a little bit smaller than it used to be.
Yeah.
But we still have a lot of talent around and even in the region, and we still have Virgin Islands abroad that we can bring home and fill some of these posts. And so part of getting my operating expenses under control is to be able to take some of that back in-house and stop outsourcing some of the things that we've outsourced.
So now, you're the CEO. Is it that I've seen WAPA guys retire
Yes.
and they gotta go work for Hagland?
Yes.
Is it the pay difference? The pay difference is really significant or not really?
You know, I don't have any qualms with that. It's actually a good personal strategy because you're getting a pension on the one side and you're getting a paycheck on the other side and you're still doing the work that you enjoy doing. So I get it from their perspective, right? There's nothing for them to lose. It's just a good, it's good financial planning on their part.
But comparing salaries, is it WAPA competitive or Hagland beating us?
What I'll say is this. I don't know what Hagland pays because I'm not seeking work from Hagland. But I imagine they probably pay better with wages, but they can't beat the benefits that we offer our employees. That's always the rub. The health insurance, the retirement, the paid leave, the benefits that we offer. I just put in a little gym in the water department.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the benefits we offer our employees are, I think, are unmatched.
Camera, so we could know we say it first. We want to come and do a tour of the facility and
Right.
Country, DJ Country, Kashif Hamilton, he's been on me and he says, Emmett, we want to get WAPA. When power go off, I tell Chanel this. Chanel say, you know, hard hat and safety and all kind of thing. And we want to see what the guy is doing to turn power back on.
Yes.
Because many people think you just switch off and you're eating a sandwich and then say turn back on the switch. I set you up so you can talk about my equipment. I take long to come out here today.
No, I mean, equipment is equipment and it fails, right? Sometimes somebody asked me the other day.
Come and we want to see what's happening. So I'm asking for the invitation to do that.
Oh, right no. Yes, you have an invitation. We'll set it up. I think that's very important for the public to see. When the power goes out, everybody suck their teeth and cuss out loud. We get to work, right? Yeah. We immediately start to dispatch if it's out in the field. I have dispatchers dispatching line trucks.
We come into that. I don't want to get too far ahead, but
in the plant, my guys start to hustle. If it's a generator down, my guys are on it.
We come into that. But you say you recognize that you went to the board, so we're going to be working and reinvesting and bringing up the WAPA team.
Definitely.
To cut down some of that outsourcing.
That's the only way I know how to do it.
Okay. Next, right now we hurricane season, hurricane preparation.
Yes.
Um, how prepared are we? And when we drive on the road, we're seeing two things.
Hmm.
We're seeing a lot of leaning poles, halfway broken poles, or we're seeing a lot of the, is it the word of foliage, a lot of the trees in the
Hmm.
lines. And we know once
Yeah.
the wind start to blow, what will happen.
Mm.
How is our hurricane preparation and where are we?
I need to ask my guys on the ground how they feel. I give us a C minus on hurricane preparation, but every day we're working to get a little bit better. So part of my budget that I'm trying to put online is to get my tree trimming, in-house tree trimming crew back. So we have employees that 365, they're trimming trees so we can deal with some of that foliage. Um, I got um, I got several trucks. I got about 4 different mechanics working on my trucks to make sure that if something comes, I got trucks that can roll out. Both districts, we're trying to build up our inventory of transformers. So I always tell people there will never come a day when any CEO of WAPA should sit back and say, I'm fully prepared. Preparation is constant, and if I'm a little bit prepared, I want to be more prepared. We're building up inventory on our water storage. We're about to be doing the same thing on our fuel storage to the extent that we can, especially on the diesel side. We are doing what we need to do to harden the system so that we're prepared for what may come. Not to mention some of the capital work we've done over the years, the composite poles. We've put in over 9,000 composite poles already. We've buried lines. So there's things we've also done to harden the system from a capital perspective. But as
Okay.
far as operations, yeah, we everybody knows we are in hurricane mode, and every day matters, every hour matters towards preparation for whatever may come. If nothing comes, we
Even
over
better.
prepared. Something comes, I want to be prepared. Right now, I'm at a C minus. I hope if you ask me the question in 2 more months, I want to be able to tell you I'm at an A plus.
So right now you're tree cutting, you don't have one in house. Or
No,
you do?
no.
No.
We when I met that we had disbanded. We used to, but we had disbanded those crews. I'm trying to restore those crews this
So
year.
is anyone right now cutting or you
The
have to
line
outsource
workers,
it?
my line workers, do tree trimming. So they'll go out and they'll do tree trimming, especially when you see us take down the power on a weekend, where it's a planned maintenance outage. More than likely, it's probably some tree trimming that we're doing, cutting back some areas that have become problematic. So we try to find a time of the week when it's least disruptive
Yeah.
and try to get in there and trim it back. But I don't want my line workers having to do tree trimming when they should be doing line work. There's lines that need to be resagged. There's poles that are leaning that need to be straightened. There are things that they need to be doing. I want them to be able to do what they should be doing. And I could always find some guys that can be specialists in trimming back the brush.
And as we're talking about hurricane season, you know the Sahara dust is here. See me looking a little, that's the Sahara dust right there that's going on. So how big
I'm
you
not
say
making
it?
you weepy.
Huh?
I thought I was making you weepy.
No man, you're good. So how big you say is your line staff though? You know the numbers off your head?
How big?
Yeah. And then you have
Um,
St. Thomas and St.
Yeah,
Croix.
St. Thomas and St. Croix. St. Croix is probably what, 5 shifts, 5 workers per shift, probably about 27. St. Thomas, I'm a little short-handed, maybe about 15. I got some apprentices. I'd say about 40 or so people.
Okay. And what's your numbers you need to be at?
I need to be at 50 or more.
50 or more.
Yeah, so
How
I'm
you think you
always.
build up? You remember when Friday saying he go make me a Dan? He
Uh,
said he walked from Pueblo to become a WAPA man. How you build up the vibes right now to get people want to be a WAPA man and get involved?
So I got a great apprenticeship program, right? And I tell we're recruiting in the schools. When you come to work for me as a line apprentice, you learn an electrical work. You becoming an electrician. The only difference is you're an electrician on the overhead aerial stuff outside the building, you know. So, but you're still learning the same principles. I took a delegation over to Tortola earlier this year to the lineman's rodeo.
Yes.
Carolec has something called the lineman's rodeo where they compete on the different skills that a
We gotta
lineman is
shout
supposed
out to
to have.
Brent. How you say your last name, Brent? Because he did a lot of promo ads on
Okay.
social
Yeah.
media promoting the lineman rodeo.
So
So that's how we became aware.
I took
We
a
win or
crew.
we win?
We win, but
We win.
we win because I took a bunch of apprentices over, young impressionable folks, and I showed them this is the profession. This is the proficiency that we're trying to build you to. And the amazing things you could do. So it's things like how to rescue a man that gets hit on the top of a pole. I mean, they had to take down a pole. bring all the stuff down to the ground, climb that pole without a truck, climb that pole and put back up that equipment, timed competition. And I think it really kind of showed them like, yeah, you know, when you do this, when you learn to do this here, you could go any place in the country and do this.
Yeah.
My goal is to make sure that they're nationally certified. Not because I want them to go walk stateside, but I want them to know that you're no less than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so the same way they could come in here after a storm or whatnot and they can do these things, we can do it too. And I showed them, folks in the Caribbean, that not only do it, but are bosses at it. And that's the level I want them to get at. So I'm trying to motivate them. So I took some young folks with me. Some of them got to compete. Some of them were only spectating. But they all kind of saw what the level is that you're trying to get to. And I think hopefully I lit a little fire in them as to this is what that career looks like. And once you come in straight out of high school with me, man, you could have a long, fulfilling career. You get the hazardous duty retirement if you want to retire after 20 years. But you could have a long, fulfilling career where you could then go on to go work for somebody else. You're still going to be young enough, but you also have some solid electrical skills that you could put to use to pay the bills for the rest of your life.
And we want to shout out, we know great people who are on your team. What's the real fast, Shavante, Marsh Bolkers, you know, she's family. No longer with your team, but we were there with the ribbon cutting. We came to the Wasilla generators on speed this set up, but we know she was instrumental in bringing those there.
Yes, she made sure she got that done before she exit the stage. She promised me she was going to get it done before she left, and she did.
All right. So now, again, we're watching AllAhWeTV. We are live. We're CEO Carl Knight, the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority. So listen, I have a friend, and I have a number of friends. We're going to get into this thing now.
All right.
Every month, I got to listen about 30 minutes on the phone because the bill ain't the same. We were just talking about the LEAC. We were talking about number of stuff. She said, my consumption doesn't change. The people in my house does not change. My bill is, it ain't the same.
Yeah.
You know, another brethren, he was complaining. He said, my studio, I turn off everything. I got a ridiculous bill.
Yeah.
So what's happening with the irregularity? What's happening with these bill always changing? You've heard it before.
Yeah.
It is a problem known to WAPA.
It is a problem known to WAPA. Matter of fact, so
if the squeaky wheel don't talk, if you don't come in and complain that your bill have a problem, you're going to get sucked.
It's a problem well known to WAPA. If you have something that you think is erroneous, you should bring it in so we can take a look at it, right? I said, you know, God either bless me or curse me. You know, I started WAPA July 29th. My August bill went from $50 to $850.
Your bill was $50?
My personal bill for my personal.
Well, you got a solar home.
So this is actually the apartment downstairs that nobody lives in that apparently had been getting estimated for God knows how long.
And it went from 50 to
850. Even more extreme than most people complain about, right?
Okay.
So I thought that I was being hazed. I said, man, they're trying to mess with the new executive director.
Yes.
And I went down and I had some frank conversations with the team about how could this happen? Why could this happen? And I asked them to do a few simple things. I said, don't lie to customers.
Okay.
I said, you know, it's not your fault, so don't invalidate their complaints.
Yes.
If it doesn't look right, let's assume that maybe something is wrong and let's look into it.
So what was wrong? Because we had stuck from 50 to 800.
The meter wasn't working.
The meter wasn't working.
And so they started to tell me, oh, this is an actual read, and they were estimating. I was like, yeah, but the meter don't work. The meter still don't work. I said, like, I know meters. I have two meters. One works, and this one doesn't work.
And the meter ain't working, and they estimating.
They're estimating the bill.
Mr. Knight, all due respect, that's lying.
Well, it's
I'll do respect.
No,
I'll
no,
do respect.
No. It's
because we're using the word estimated,
right.
But that's like
so
me sending a bill and what can I do?
There's an estimated consumption, right? And so whatever happened, the estimate went sideways. So they're estimating because they can't read. What I did when I came in, look, I found over 10,000 meters that were not given readings. And so we started off immediately on a project. Within the first 4 months on the job, I had already installed 1,100 new meters. This year, we've installed over 2,500 meters for the year already. I still got meters that, I'm walking them guys to the bone. Every day they're going out installing meters for new customers that want to hook up, because that was a problem too. Nobody could get new meters. And for meters that have been malfunctioning, replacing those meters. We have a new smart metering program that's coming online. I'm killing myself putting in new meters, even though I have another set of meters coming, because I realize that we won't get a benefit of that till maybe February of next year when we'll probably kick off that project in earnest. In the meantime, folks are getting these bills that are very erratic, and I want to make sure we're on top of that. And yeah, when you come in, we do adjustments. What happens is sometimes the register, that digital display, doesn't read, but we can actually pull readings off of the metrics inside the meter. And so sometimes, depending, if you come in, we can actually do adjustments if we find it's our fault. What we've also learned, though, is it'll cut both ways. Sometimes we have been overbilling you, and we need to give you a credit. There are times when we've been underbilling, and we actually need to do a true-up. And in those cases, I've asked customer service to be reasonable and extend payment plans that make sense. If you didn't accrue the bill in 1 month, we don't expect you to pay it all off in 1 month. And so when we do find that it's been an underbilling situation, let's be reasonable in how we approach it.
Let's take it back. No. I just see these two-door Jeep, what you call those?
Wranglers.
Wranglers. Driving around, I want to say country, around the islands.
Yeah, all over. Every
Don't
nook
we
and
have
cranny.
meter readers?
We do have meter readers. The meters.
But what's happening?
We've had an issue.
But the meter ain't working properly. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
So they're reading the wrong thing.
They read what they can read. They read what's working, and sometimes if it's not working, they report in. So it might be working this month. When they go out to read it, they might find that they can't read it, and so they'll report in and say, "Hey, this meter is blank."
Okay.
They'll do, meter services will come out and take a look to see if it's something that's a quick fix. In some cases, what we've learned is after Irma Maria, a lot of the meters, the modules that we were using to read these meters remotely, a lot of those modules failed. Whether it's the humidity, the water just getting in them, salt intrusion.
So that's across the board, they fail?
That's across the board, right? So about half of them still work. As advertised, we actually could remotely read them. About half of them we have to manually read. About a quarter of them we have to manually read,
so
and then about a quarter.
Estimations is what's going on right now.
There's a lot of estimating. So estimation, there's nothing wrong with estimating, right? It's not a lie, it's not a fraud, but it's not supposed to be month after month after month. There's supposed to be a true up. If I read you this month, if I read you in July, and I have to estimate you in August because a storm came through the day I was supposed to read, by September, I should read you again, and I should be able to say, okay, the difference between July and September is this. And so I could give you an estimate for August, but by September, I should be truing that up to say, okay, I charged you this in August. Here's what the difference really is. Here's what I should have charged you, and I should fix it. When I let that run for month after month, that starts to accumulate. And then there's a point when I do take a reading or I change out a meter, I now bring you a consumption charge, and you say, well, hey, I never paid that yet.
Yeah.
That's what's happening, but we're working on it. We understand the issue. It's known to us. I've been tackling this thing.
And you just have to replace the meters with true meters.
I gotta do it the hard way. We gotta replace meters. Make sure that I have all my meters that are readable, both remotely as well as physically.
I'm at the point where if the meter ran or ain't working properly, when they read it, like you said, they get an incorrect reading.
No, we don't. It's either you read it or you don't read it. It's either you can read it or you cannot read it. There's no incorrect readings. It's either that display is telling you because we're digital now, right? So we don't even have a lot of the analog meters anymore. There's a digital display. There's a number that you're taking off of that digital display. Either you can get that number or you cannot get that number.
So
Period.
I was saying to the public is if you feel that there is a discrepancy or whatever, come into customer service and you help them and you guide them to help the consumer.
Yeah.
And I guess if they're not satisfied, then they ask for a supervisor and they keep working their way up.
Yeah. And everybody, everybody's now on task. I've told my customer service reps, be mindful. These are our neighbors. These are our friends, our family. Everybody's in the same boat. When they come in, be patient with them. Understand their frustration. They're not coming to the office because they're happy to see you. They're coming because something didn't go right.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to exercise patience and we work with our customers because we understand what's happening.
Now, let's talk about customer service real fast. Last week, we got a complaint that there was an unofficial sickle. That was true or that was not?
Unofficial. I always mix it unofficial. So I know that we were short staffed last Friday.
You had a sickle?
no one will acknowledge that it was a sick out. So we've spoken to everybody, and no one will acknowledge that. So as far as I know, we were short-staffed.
So how is it going now? We've been talking WAPA, we're talking the issues, and then we go into the nice baby, the Watzilla generators. How is it going internal in WAPA? How is the team member? And I'm asking the boss. That's like asking the king how the people doing.
How the peasants are doing?
Well, we gonna use the word the peasants, you know.
It's not quite that way.
How is it in WAPA right now? Where we have a unofficial. I mean, these things happen. You have a big team,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You have a big staff.
yeah.
So what's happening right now? How's the team members? We have good spirit. We have what's going on?
I like to roll up my sleeve. Like I said, I started my career in the power plant. I'm not far into being out there. I don't get out there as much as I want to, but I get out there a good clip. And I like to see how my employees are functioning. I like to surprise them by walking through the building sometimes and seeing what's going on with my own two eyes. I think they are doing their level best. I think they're bought into what I'm trying to achieve with the company. I think they have been beaten down over the years by the public criticism, as well as the cash shortfalls, right? The things that they would like to have, like a desk that ain't falling apart, or a Jeep Wrangler where the AC actually works. There's some things that we haven't been able to provide to some members of our team over the years that ultimately has an impact on your morale. But as far as the vision, the mission, if they wasn't dedicated before I got there, I could vouch that they are dedicated now. I see that they're highly motivated. They believe in what they're trying to do, and they're doing their level best with the resources that I can furnish and provide to them. So I can't answer the question for them. It's the boots on the ground ultimately have to speak to how they feel, and they can give you those testimonials. But I'll tell you, if the power goes off at 2 o'clock in the morning tonight, I will have men in that power plant, and probably some women too, in that power plant executing the repairs without question. I don't even have to call them twice. They are motivated because they live here too. Their power probably out too. So they're going to be in there, and they're going to do the best job that they can, because when we succeed, the community succeeds. When the community succeeds, we succeed. So, and they know that very well.
We get some comments online, and then we ask the public to submit questions.
Oh, sure.
We're going to read some of them. I'm a neighbor here, Tammy. She said, well, she have to carry the customer service. She said her bill going up $100 every month, and it's an estimated bill, and she have 2 new meters. She have 2 new meters. Her bill going up $100 every month, and so she have to go to customer service, and I guess not resolved. Then you keep taking it.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to say. So I'm trying to get away from the estimated bills. I want to give you actual reads. However, when you started on the premise of the bill fluctuating, so it all depends. You're going to use more power during the summer when it's hot. You'll run your fans, your AC more, and during the winter when it's a little bit cooler. There are certain things, and people know, the times when your house busy and the times when your house quiet. So the bill from month to month will always have some level of fluctuation. The mission is to make sure it's an accurate recording of your consumption, and that I'm billing you every month based on what you use just for that month.
Now, other things she mentioned, have you heard, no, these my partner then, so me showing about it in the bus, mentioned that the meter readers, they could read from inside the car, or they gotta come out and read. I remember back in the day, they would come out and things like that. I've seen some come out, had a comment that they're sitting inside the car. How
so like with the water, we actually have some RF radio frequency transmitters where they could actually drive by and read your water meter without ever leaving the car. Of course, some meters we could actually read from the office, and then others they have to physically get out and physically look at it. So it's a combination. But we do have some RF transmitters out there where they just drive by with the antenna, and it picks up the readings as they go down the road.
Okay. Sound good. So now let's get into it. We had we had questions submitted. And there's some very good ones.
Okay.
There we go. Watzilla generators.
Yes.
4 new generators were delivered in 2021. Finally commissioned late 2024. And then shut down for repairs in February 2025. 1 month after ribbon cutting ceremony, making the generators operational. Are they active, and is there a maintenance schedule to prevent the future breakdown?
So I'll inform them. They're well informed, but I'll tell you, January 26th was when the first one went down. And it took us a while to realize that they were having a series of issues. They're active. They've been running for the last several months. What we have isolated is we realized when we tried to run them on the liquid the LPG propane, they were giving us some issues. There's something there with the fuel pump that the propane was affecting. We've been running them on diesel for maybe the last 3-4 months without any issues, fairly reliable. We are right now, we think we've narrowed down the issue. I don't want to get ahead of Wartsila, but we've been hunting for the root cause, what's causing them to fail when they switch over to propane. Wartsila and the pump manufacturer, a company called Hammelman, they've been on the ground, they were on the ground for like the last 3 months trying to figure this thing out. They feel that they have the problem solved. And so we're looking forward to them starting to do what they have to do so we can start to put them back on propane. But they've been running for the last several months on diesel, and they're much more efficient on diesel than the old units that we had in the plant. I mean, they are night and day compared to what we were burning before.
But we have a beautiful, beautiful propane plant that we want to see in use.
Yeah.
But before we go,
and we're using propane on the original 3 Wartsilas. So there's a phase 1 and a phase 2. The 4 are the phase 2, but we have 3 phase 1 Wartsilas that are running perfectly well on propane. We also run unit 15 primarily on propane, and so we are using propane as well.
No, the question is that repair service for them failing and propane, that's under warranty?
All under warranty. It hasn't cost me a dime.
It ain't costing nothing.
Yeah. And of course, the longer you take to fix it, the more the warranty period pushes out. So we haven't incurred any costs as far as the actual repairs and what they're supposed to be doing, all of the new equipment, the changing all the parts and all of that stuff. That's on their dime. So even though we commission them, and even though they're running, they're still under warranty until they can get fully functional. But we are still getting the benefits of those units.
All right, real quick, I'm going to credit our advertisers or supporters on making this happen. You see what happens when we do these interviews? Get big lights on the ground, cameras going. More power consumption, right? More power consumption, the bill going up. So we got to thank the Virgin Islands EDA, the Economic Development Authority, the Virgin Islands Police Department, #1 Tire Kingdom Auto Depot. Buy 3 tires, you get a 4 tire free. Miss Naturalista is always a sale, is always a special. Even if you don't use it, you can go and buy a gift certificate for your friend, your loved one. Get them what they need, and I'm sure you're going to get something for you as well at Miss Naturalista, St. Thomas and St. Croix. St. Thomas Yacht Haven Grand in St. Croix. It's St. Thomas Yacht Haven Grand, right there close by Wendy's in St. Croix, in front of Jane's Bridal, by the market, former Plaza West. The Bureau of School Construction and Maintenance. Listen, over about 130 projects are underway to bring our schools up to par, get our schools ready for the school year 2025-2026. Can they fix everything? No. But they're trying and they're working hard. Bureau of School Construction and Maintenance. You see how good I do that?
Yeah.
I should a job in PR, right?
Yeah.
Java Grand. Start your day, end your day. Java Grand, not only cafes, lattes, but they got a great bar, great environment going for you. Yacht Haven, Java Grand. Next question. New solicitation with Department of Recovery. Would you say the Vital project was the cause of WAPA going into so much debt, into a financial hole that we're finally seeing the light of day on? The deal was playing with a bunch of change orders that resulted in rising costs, something we're seeing today with the Paulie Joseph Stadium. So they asked if the Vital deal was the problem, why you're in so much debt.
So no, I always hate going back there because I hate defending things that predated me.
Yeah.
But I do have knowledge and so since I live in this community, I need to set it straight. The Vital project, as I've told people time and time again, propane is our primary source of fuel. I look at the price I pay for propane versus what I pay for diesel. The Vital project paid for itself, cost overruns and all. Within the first 3 years of that project, they had already paid for themselves. But people need to realize that when oil was over $150 a barrel or something, we're paying 53 cents a kilowatt hour. WAPA was paying something like $250 million a year for fuel. When you put that in the context of what they paid for that whole terminal, it's a fraction, right? And so that project actually paid for itself within the first, I would say, at least 3 years. The folks on the ground at the time would probably need to say exactly how quick the return was, but from my math, it's about 3 years. And I now have the benefit of that infrastructure. So we now own those terminals. I own a deep sea mooring. I can now shop. I'm now free to move about the country I'm able to look for propane providers, whoever can get me the best price. And unlike most Caribbean islands, they don't have a propane terminal that they can land propane for generation. We do. So that actually gives us a little bit of a leg up. Where I put the blame squarely, and maybe I shouldn't do that because I got stuff pending in front of the Public Services Commission.
Okay.
But the fallout about how to pass on, the Public Services Commission said, we're not paying for the change orders since we didn't approve the change orders. And that dispute from then till now, my point has always been, so when the project incurred cost overruns, WAPA went to the PSC and said, well, this is the project. The PSC said, well, the project was only supposed to cost this, so you got to figure out how you pay the rest of it. The reality is somebody going to end up paying for it.
True.
I come maybe 15 years after the fact, I paying for it. Right? It doesn't, the bills don't go away. Vital didn't say, throw up their hands and say, okay, never mind. Those accounts payable stayed on the books. And all the stuff that we deferred and kicked the can down the road and chose not to, if you want to send home people, you want to fire people, chastise people, whatever, do it. But to say that we wasn't going to pay the bill, well, that strategy didn't work. Eventually, the bill became due.
Well, that was a great explanation.
Yeah, that's a short version of it.
I like how you break it down. I like how you break it down. And you said the project paid for itself.
It paid for itself.
And we got to give compliments to the people who were there, who made the decision. You had Governor DeYoung, you had Hugo Hodge, you got a lot of beat up. You don't get the beat up that Hugo get when he was in that chair. As a big Hugo supporter.
I ain't had to be a slave to appreciate the sacrifices that they made, right? Yes. I got to take his blows to appreciate the work that he did. But it was an engineering feat to build a propane terminal in both districts, build it as quickly as they did. And yes, it did. It was plagued with cost overruns. A lot of those had to do with safety factors to make sure it was safe. I don't know what all of them were. I wasn't there for those cost overruns. But, what I know is that I inherited a nice propane terminal that now is an asset to the people of the Virgin Islands and the Water and Power Authority.
So, yeah, that was a great breakdown. I love it, and I love the credit that you give. Big ups to that. What I'm trying to figure out is, you said we own the terminals.
Yes, sir.
We could shop open market.
Yes, sir.
However, we're bringing them in by barge. So the barge that we're bringing it in is under contract?
So how it works is we go out for a propane supplier. Now, I have to say...
I don't want to tell you where I'm going with that. I cut you off. I'm sorry. I guess before you owned it, I know the story was, I don't want to take this too far off track.
Okay.
And I use that, I posted a picture up. It said that they would stay in the harbor until they get a release that the money was in their account.
Yes.
And they would not pull up to the dock.
That is true.
So are we free from that right now, since I guess we only paying for the barge service? Did I bring it correctly in my head, or not really?
You're almost on the point. We had an exclusive arrangement for the last 15 years. However long the propane terminals have been there, we've had an exclusive arrangement with Vital.
Yes.
That exclusive arrangement actually ended last year.
When we pay off for it.
When we paid off for the equipment.
Yes.
But when we went out trying to find who could, so last year we kind of tested the waters and we didn't get anybody.
And Vital is still the best player in town.
At that time, based on when we tested the waters. But then we went out with a formal solicitation. If you're paying attention in the media, you'd have seen that just last month, I told the board that I didn't get the results that I was hoping to get when I went out for an open bid. I'm testing the market now to see who other than Vital want to sell us fuel. Okay. Because Vital's arrangement is prepayment. They said, look, WAPA, you've done it to us once, you've done it to us twice. From now on, you pay for your fuel before we go in to deliver. I think we're on the verge of being able to do something different and do something better.
So a possible provider. Okay. Yes. We don't ask so much because broadcasts are no longer just territorial.
You know that.
It's so we have to read in between the lines. Next question that we have here. We have oops, I'm sorry. I moved from it. Ooh, they have quite a few. With this new attempt of securing scalable energy generation for St. Thomas and St. Croix, how do we, one, ensure these contracts are well negotiated and accounts for minimal change orders? And two, that when we receive these new generators, they're not sitting in the salt air for 3 to 4 years before becoming operational.
The so there's a few things there. You know, as an engineer, I'd be remiss if I don't point out. Change orders aren't always a bad thing, right? I might start doing some. You might bring me in to do some work on your home. While I'm there doing some work, you might say, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you do this or change that door or move this here?" That's a change order, but it's actually maybe to the benefit of the project to make the project an even better project than originally conceived.
You know what
So,
change orders don't exist? In media and production. Most times.
okay,
Because we go on the scene, we're doing photography or video,
yeah,
and then they say, hey, you add your problem, look at that, I need some extra light, we bring it in, and most time we don't add it.
right.
That's what happened.
But so I don't want people to assume that every time you hear change order, it's gotten a very bad rep. And as an engineer, there are some changes that make sense. I might
Yeah.
have not known this was a problem until I break the wall, and then I
Yeah.
realize, man, you got no rebar in that wall. I need to now put in some rebar.
True.
But to go back to the real concern, right, is like, hey, how can we move this along? We don't want to have these generators sitting there rusting away. We are working with the Office of Disaster Recovery. We're working with their Super Project Management Office, and they have contracted with a firm named Jacobs Engineering to do the project management on the project. WAPA is advising. We are integral in the planning, but we actually have professionals that are assisting us with the management of the project. It is going to be a big undertaking, both power plants. And so we have a professional firm that is funded by FEMA that is there to really kind of provide that project management expertise and hold the contractors accountable. So if you don't trust your local guys to do it, we also are supplemented by this firm that is going to be helping us to keep on top of things.
This is a good question here. We just went through it that the water center generators, the problem that they have. We got the guys on the ground, guys and ladies, ladies and gentlemen, on the ground, they're working on it. The question is, since they're burning oil instead of propane, is there a difference in cost? And if so, is Zilla reimbursing the territory for the additional cost and fuel?
Yeah. So there's, I guess what I would say is I'm keeping very meticulous notes on the differential. There's a difference in cost. As I point out, propane is cheaper than oil.
Okay.
Although they're very efficient on oil and they're more efficient than the units that we had before, they're still not maximizing the efficiency
Oil
that
or
I'm
diesel?
hoping to get. Fuel oil. So it's diesel.
Okay.
It goes by many names. Number 2, fuel oil, distillate, diesel, but the common name is diesel.
So you're keeping account,
We're keeping account.
and you're going to have that conversation.
That reckoning will come.
And that's going to come when the problem is fixed?
We got to fix the problem first.
Okay.
Yeah. So my thing is get my units running, and then let's sit down and talk.
Okay. And you don't want to say, of course, you don't want to say here what you're looking forward to.
In that regards?
Yeah, how you want to swing it.
No, I mean, at that point, I think all parties know that there is some sort of cost associated with this, and there's a conversation to be had that is not lost on us. But I don't want a breakdown in discussion to take place that will stymie the ability to work as feverishly as we can to get them at maximum productivity and efficiency. That's my mission. Get them to the level, performing at the level that they need to be performing at, which in this case means get them back on propane, find the problem so I know it doesn't reoccur in the future, demonstrate to me that you've solved the problem permanently, and then let's sit down and reconcile our differences.
Sounds good. Okay, what's the status of the St. John 2 standby generators?
We're still having conversations on that. What I could say that's positive and forward-looking is there is a solicitation going out for the battery backup for the island of St. John.
Okay.
Because we have been going back and forth with what we want to do as far as generators, what I got the team to agree to is that the consensus on the battery backup, it makes sense. That's what we need to do up front. So at least short duration outages, we will be insulated from those. That's a quicker installation. That's maybe like an 8-month project. And so I think by sometime within the next 30 days or so, there'll be an RFP. We've already put out the RFP for the new generators for St. Croix and St. Thomas. That battery system will probably go out sometime in the next 30 days. We're working on that right now.
Okay. Then we have WAPA underground power lines to St. Thomas. When is that work expected to start? But before you even talk about underground line, I remember when we had that big blackout, we learned that the underground wire is only one in operation in Bilang 3.
Oh, and St. John?
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
The one
yeah.
that coming out of the plant, going in them manhole.
Yeah.
Listen, let's say it right here. We got to give credit to the men and women who are on the front line.
Yes.
You bigged up your team.
Yeah.
We have number of videos when you go down, we there, and when they go in that manhole,
Yeah.
they'll go in clean and come out
Dirty.
beyond dirty. They could come out with sewage, water, all kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And they doing that, and they walk in, and they gotta find the problem. So shout out to them. But on the island of St. Thomas, from my understanding, during that time, there basically is 3 wires, right? And we are basically on one because a number of them went down during the hurricane, and we weren't able to replace them as yet, or maybe they have been replaced, or they're in process.
Yeah, you have bits of it correct. We do have a couple feeders, feeder 12, feeder 13, that are underground, or portions of them are underground. We can't switch all of the load onto one or the other because it's going to overload the capacity of the cables. Feeder 13, like feeder 13, believe it or not, so WAPA doesn't get a lot of credit for being ahead of its time. That underground cable is over 20 years already. You know, some of the original underground work didn't just come with Irma and Maria. That stuff predates Irma and Maria. So it's at that point now we're starting to show its age. What we're doing right now, if you up by Snyder Regional Medical Center and you look to your west, you'll see that we're actually coming with some overhead lines coming through that area. That's actually a bypass for feeder 13. That would allow us to be able to pull the cables from feeder 13, replace those, because we'll be able to bypass that feeder. So we're building in some redundancy in that fashion. So when you see us planting those composite poles with that overhead, those really tall composite poles, that's actually a transmission bypass that will allow us to have redundancy, but more importantly, allow us to kind of do the repairs on feeder 13 that we've been kind of doing piecemeal.
Okay. And the second part to that question was, so that's the underground power lines to St. Thomas. When is the work expected to start?
So we already started. We're probably at 50% on the bypass. Once we've done the bypass, it allows us to do the work on the actual underground. So the bypass is overhead. That's the fastest way to do it, and that'll allow us to pull the new cables through the underground.
Okay. We're getting ready. It's been a great conversation, but we thank you for your time. We're wrapping it up, getting some questions in, and then we'll move along.
Sure.
The governor's promised during his last election, 2022, St. Croix will be 99% on renewable energy. How is the project going? Then with the old Juventa refinery having its own generators, how have we looked into using that plant as a backup or another power source for St. Croix specifically?
Right.
So the first part, how are we looking at the renewable energy and that being 99% on the island of Santa Cruz?
So I have to say in the governor's defense that he was misquoted in the media. But having said that, no excuse making. We're making great progress. So on St. Croix, the peak load on St. Croix is like 45 megawatts. Right now, I have 27 megawatts.
So you say you were misquoted. What you're saying is not going to be 99%.
So yeah, I think it was something like we're going to be 100% renewable within 6 months or something like that.
So are we looking at 50%?
We are putting on more and more renewables.
Yeah.
We are getting there. Right now, we're taking a pause. We have a big project at Fortuna that we're going to be putting online this year. We're working on that.
Talk about Fortuna. So we from Fortuna.
Okay.
Tell us about Fortuna. We're the forgotten child.
Fortuna, we are looking, we're working on a power purchase agreement with our development partner, VIRAPC. That's going to be the largest solar farm in the territory.
What part of Fortuna? Can you seem like you are taking a lot of farmland and you are putting up solar power plant?
So on St. Croix, the first property we used was an old cattle ranch that hadn't herded cattle since Island Dairies closed down many moons ago.
Can we give up on the cattle?
Well, the farmers had already moved on, so it probably would have been repurposed for residential purposes. The second farm we built was all residentially zoned. I don't know the zoning of Fortuna. We didn't acquire the land assets. That's where the private partner comes in. Bovoni is certainly not agricultural land. So we have tried to stay away. Matter of fact, one of the projects on St. Croix that WAPA was going to do was going to be built on agricultural zone. And I personally shut down that project because I didn't feel the need to use agricultural land for solar when there's other land we could use.
Well, you got to
So
tell
I'm
us the
sensitive
part
to
of
that issue.
Fortuna. Because during Irma Maria, we don't say it, but some of them solar panel became airborne. Everything becomes airborne in a hurricane. But you know, we Fortuna, we far. So we not trying to get things
Airborne?
extra.
No,
We trying to get extra because you all don't come and help we quick.
we're gonna show you so a lot of infrastructure is going to go in to support that farm because we got to get that power out to Crombie. We'll give you a tour of the site so you can see exactly where we're putting it in. It's going to be a good flagship project for the island of St. Thomas.
I know you're going to take it overhead because many times they had conversation that you're going to try and take power and go out in the sea and bring it to the power plant.
This going to be overhead. There is applications where we're going to do submarine cables, but not for this one.
Okay.
So we are doing that. And I also have to add in, because I think people will forget, I got about 2,000 customers that are either net metering or net billing. So they have their own private systems that they've invested in, and they're connected to the grid, where they backup power, where the supplemental power, nighttime comes, where their source. And so I also kind of factor that into, we facilitate, where we don't produce renewables ourselves, we also are in the business of facilitating folks that are trying to do their own renewable energy.
That program still going, or I shut
Very much still going. Matter of fact, I've hired somebody just to dedicate to that program. Your second question, how's the renewables?
Yeah, so we were asking, you said that you had to pass St. Croix, the 99%.
Yes.
You say it's not 99%. That was kind of
misquoted. But it's a very large penetration of renewables. We're already pushing the envelope about what we can do. We're putting in batteries to kind of smooth out the fluctuations in the solar, and we are pushing the envelope. I'm a former director of the energy office. I'm having a lot of fun pushing the technology to the limits to see how much solar we can actually integrate onto our grids. And I have a team that is equally up to the task. We work very closely with the National Renewable Energy Laboratories, and we have over 50% of peak load on St. Croix right now.
Okay, I just want to understand because, I live half of the time in St. Croix. And they're going to beat me up if they say I didn't answer the question.
Yeah.
So in St. Croix, we came to it. You say it isn't 99% what we say in the renewable energy. What we're looking at in the percentage.
All right. So in a typical day, the most power that we use on St. Croix is somewhere around 45 megawatts.
Okay.
So at the height of the day, which actually takes place more around 7 o'clock in the evening when everybody gets home, that's the peak load for St. Croix. I have a 10 megawatt farm at Petronella on the east end of St. Croix, a 12 megawatt farm in the west side of St. Croix at Hoggensburg,
22.
And then I have another 4 megawatt farm in the middle of the island at Clifton Hill. That's 26 megawatts of solar energy. So in the middle of the day, as long as I ain't got a bunch of cloud cover and haze, I got about 26 megawatts of power that I'm pumping onto the grid, more than 50% of what St. Croix draws at its peak. And there are points of the day when we're drawing, we need less power than the 45 megawatts. So we are over 50% of St. Croix's needs, at least daytime. I also have batteries that can shift some of that energy into the early evening hours for about a couple hours into the early evening if necessary.
Okay.
So we get in there.
We get ready to wrap up.
Sure.
You had mentioned about the gym. We're getting wrap up. You're straightforward. She's telling my guys back there that you gotta go. So we're gonna wrap this thing here up. We're not gonna talk straight. But right there, your team, I guess Chanel is watching when you mentioned about the gym. They were asking who's paying for it.
Cigna.
Yeah.
Pay for it in my health insurance.
She responded.
Okay,
she said, or maybe it's this one. Maybe she responded. I said Cigna because they were asking about that right there. Ultimately, what we could look forward, where WAPA going? What can we expect? WAPA is a part of our life.
Yeah.
And WAPA impacts everything about our life. So where is it going, and what mark you want to see during your tenure there that you left the agency?
So certainly WAPA is starting to improve. So the old legacy plan that's been there for the last donkey years is slowly being replaced now. Everything that is in place, the procurements are out. Matter of fact, I have a bid due on August 8th that ODR has put out to get proposals on the full replacement of the Richmond Power Plant on St. Croix. That means generators, control room, you name it. There's another about 40 megawatts of additional. So outside of the Wansillers that we just put in and commissioned, there's another 40 megawatts that we're trying to put in the Harley plant on St. Thomas. We have probably 20-something megawatts of solar energy that we're trying to put on the grid on St. Thomas. And there's probably going to be another similar size, maybe a smaller project on St. John that we're trying to do with solar. We are putting in additional battery backup systems, which is a technology 10 years ago that wasn't even a conversation. Now we can actually back up feeders with battery power, and so you're going to see more of that. We are building a robust system that is built to improve reliability as much as you could improve reliability on a small island in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. But we are going to do our level best to get to a point where frequent outages are a thing of the past. People ain't got the cost every time. I want when the lights go out, that you say, wow, what's going on? I want you to be pleasantly surprised when the lights go out because it hasn't happened in a while. So I'm trying to build that. That would be a wonderful legacy for me. And of course, I am mindful of the costs. I do want to bring down the costs. I think, like I said, within 12 months, I'm going to be able to joyfully jump into conversations about how much and how fast we can start to drop the rates, because I think we would have been on a more solid financial footing than we've been for the past few years. And so we're getting there. You will never praise your utility. I don't care where in the country you live. You never put on a bumper sticker saying, I love Con Ed or I love my power company.
Maybe that's an idea.
If I bring it down to 30 cents, you want it to 20. And if I bring it to 20, you're going to say, well, you can't do 15. So we understand that, the target is always going to be a moving target. We just want to be moving in the right direction. We want to keep progressing. We want to keep getting better. We want to keep getting more reliable and more affordable. That's our mission. And if I could get us on a trajectory where we're clearly becoming increasingly reliable and increasingly affordable, I think that's a good legacy for me to leave.
As we leave here, I want to say, and this helps your statement as you watch the Caribbean, that you're watching Caribbean news. I watch a number of different providers, and Guyana bought in a floating power boat. I didn't even know it had a floating power barge. They brought it in, and the power barge failed.
Oh,
and they bring in a second one, and it's still getting power outages. So it makes you think about, hey, our guys ain't doing too bad.
We are far from the worst. We don't rejoice in other utilities that struggle, but we do know there's a struggle, especially, like I said, when you're isolated. We're not connected to no national grid. If my generator fails, everybody power goes out until I could get that generator up and running, right? I can't just buy power from Tatola or buy power from Puerto Rico. We just don't have a grid. I can't even trade power between St. Croix and St. Thomas. St. Croix got to stand on its own feet. St. Thomas got to stand on its own feet. So, and hopefully eventually I'll get St. John into a position where St. John can stand on its own feet. That's the mission for St. John. So, we understand there's some challenges, but we are, we bring in fuel, unlike Trinidad and Guyana and these places where they got their own oil, got their own gas. Barbados got its own gas. Things going to always be cheaper in those bigger countries because they also have natural resources that we don't have the benefit of. That's why we're making the investment in one natural resource we have, which is solar. We're trying to see if we can make an investment in wind.
Okay.
We are trying to invest in indigenous
water
resources.
Don't work for us.
Water won't work. Maybe one of these days, but not now.
Well, listen, it's been great. Anything else you want to add? We had a good conversation. How do you feel?
I appreciate it. WAPA belongs to the people of the Virgin Islands. It's a public power utility that is owned full lock, stock, and barrel by the people of the Virgin Islands. I always relish the opportunity to come and talk to the people of the Virgin Islands about what we're doing and reminding them that, we are of this community, from this community, we live in this community. We all have a feeder number assigned. Each one of my employees got a feeder number that they ultimately have to pay a bill for. And so they are the most motivated people on the planet to make sure that WAPA is doing the best it can for the customers, because they are also customers too. And so we will continue to hold ourselves accountable. We'll continue to bring ourselves to the public. I can't hide. I can't run. I certainly can't run from you, Emmett. You're going to find me wherever I try to hide. You'll track me down all the way to St. John.
I take a beautiful picture of you.
But that's the awesome thing is, you can hold us accountable because we're right here next to you. And when you suffer, we suffer too.
And I got to tell you that we're not saying apology, But you know, when you had the rolling blackouts going in St. Thomas, which we haven't seen in a while, again, couple here and there.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen WAPA. It's just been massive and affecting businesses and such.
Right.
And that was when we were at Sea Trade,
Mm.
and I put up your picture.
Oh, you
And I
did?
say, keep the same energy. You know, man, they
Ah.
send it to you. The same people in your camp send it. And I know who sent it to you, know. I know who in your camp sent it. You know what I mean? And Chanel called me and I said, listen, when I love our own people,
Mm.
and when Hugo were there, we beat him up. We beat him up. Our people beat him up. Not you, not anybody. Our people, we beat him up. And then Julio were there, we beat up Julio. We beat up Boogie. We beat up our own.
I'd feel left out.
Hessman went in. We were quiet. The other gentleman went in. We didn't even know who he was. You understand? So, and you had a couple of things. We went out there with the cameras. And those guys, again, they work hard. We're wrapping up right now, madam. She did watching, you know, but they might get her. Watch out. We were there when that pipe break by Turnbull. Those guys put in 18 hours, 24 hours to get that thing resolved. The WAPA team works hard.
You asked me about morale. There's no better indicator. You know, if them guys weren't motivated, they wouldn't have been there putting in that kind of effort.
Eddie and all of those guys in the water. Yeah. And when they find a leak, they didn't stop till that thing. I buy them breakfast. I went to the bakery and I bought them breakfast because we were there getting the story. And so far, I should have submitted a receipt to Chanel. But, you know, but however, we got to give you a little rough up now and again when they go bad because we got to keep the same energy. We got to keep the same energy. And that were our people. So whoever go in the spot, and we cheering for you to do the best. Because like you say, you're working on behalf of us.
I don't mind. I'm built for it. I know what I'm getting myself into, and I know my people. I know Virgin Islanders. When they need to say what they have to say, they'll say it, and I'm accustomed to that. So it doesn't faze me one way or the other. As long as I know that I'm doing my best, and the men and women at the Water and Power Authority are doing our best, we'll keep plugging away.
So listen, it's been a great conversation. I got the allergies and stuff, so we're going to shake hands. I want to thank you for watching AllAhWeTV. We are live. You know we're going to be live tomorrow. We're going to use a lot of these clips in Rise Up Morning Show. What time we start? 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Tonight we are brought to you by the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority, the Virgin Islands Police Department, number 1 Tayaki Namado Depot, Miss Naturalista, Bureau of School Construction and Maintenance, and Java Grant. Thank you, AllAhWeTV. We're a community TV. This is what we do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It finally happened.
Yes.
It finally happened.